Online at dtmccalls.com.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and a good afternoon. Hope you're doing well. 12:25. Coming up, a political candidate in the studio, a gentleman that I've never met, but I look forward to it. Chris Spencer is in and around the Sumner County area, and he's running for state senate. He's introducing himself and then getting a pretty big endorsement later on in the show. So that's breaking news at about 12:45, 12:50. Today on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Until then, me, you, the telephone calls up and running. 615-737-9986. I asked the question. Let me give you my really quick take, because I have, over the years that I've done this radio show, I've been a dog lover and a dog owner virtually all of my adult life. I was, just to give you a little backstory, because I heard a caller that called Hands Show and indicated that, hey, if you had a bad experience with a dog when you were a kid, that scars you for life. Well, I had a bad experience with the dog when I was a kid. I got bitten.
I did too. I got attacked by a boxer one time. I'm not scarred.
I got attacked by a Springer Spaniel, my grandfather's hunting dog, who I was riding back from a hunting trip with the Springer Spaniel and a Labrador Retriever that my grandfather had, and I wanted to ride in the back with him. And he let me. My brother was in the front seat of the truck. It was a covered bed of the truck. He had a hard shell on top. And the Lab and the Springer Spaniel got into it. And they kind of fought for a second and then broke apart. And then the Springer Spaniel had like a little boogie on his eye. And I was young. I was like 8. And I thought he was crying. And I wanted to make him feel better. And so I reached over to pet him, and he bit me twice on my side. We had left the country and in the city. My grandfather told me later on, he said, we were in the middle of town when this happened. And he pulled over the truck and got me out of the back and got me into the truck. And my grandfather told me, he said, if we had not been in town, I would have shot and killed the dog right then. And this is a beloved hunting dog that he had had for, years.
Wow.
He said, I would have shot him. No, you don't attack people. But luckily that did not happen. But I'm not scarred for life. However, I would say this. Here's the deal. When you own a bull breed, a pit bull breed or a bull mastiff or what are described as the bully breeds, you have to have an understanding as a dog owner that you have a different type of animal. Here's the comparison that I would make. And I hesitate to do this because I got to shift gears, but we'll pick it back up in the 1 o'clock hour. I hesitate to use the gun comparison because invariably people talk about the Second Amendment, and that's not what I'm discussing here. I'm discussing the differences between dog breeds, and I'm comparing it to the differences between guns. If I own a .22 rifle and I own a .308 Daniel Defense M4 or V7, and I do own both of those things, which is a more dangerous gun? They're both dangerous. They both can get on you. They both can kill you. Which is more dangerous? They're both guns. So when you own a golden retriever can bite you. But I promise you this, if a golden retriever gets on you, or if a chihuahua gets on you, or a cocker spaniel gets on you, it's going to be potentially less damaging, maybe not in every case, but the potential for damage is far greater if a pit bull gets on you. Similar to the gun analogy. They're both dangerous, and they need to be treated as something that you need to get training with and for. And I understand that dogs are different because dogs are living creatures, but dogs are trainable creatures. They are domesticated animals. And so at the beginning of my radio career, I was very much in camp ban pit bull. And I'm not anymore. I am in the camp of banning bad owners, because it is an ownership responsibility to take care of the animal and to understand the animal that you have and the potential for danger. I'll give you one other example. John Henry, my rescue Great Dane, who's now 13. I had only had him I got him when he was 2. Maybe less than a year, and he bit someone. He bit a kid. A kid that, well, it was my nephew, Alex. My brother was visiting. He bit Alex. Thankfully, everything was okay. But I was cognizant from then on that he had the ability to do that. I was aware of it. And so when we would go into social settings, this is a 120-pound dog. He's a good-looking dog. But I recognized that he was more aggressive with smaller people, kids. And so I was very careful around kids to the point that I would tell kids, nah, it's not a good time. Yeah, he gets a little skittish in crowds. In a one-on-one setting, he was normally perfectly fine. He's never bitten anyone again. But as a good owner or an owner that tries to be as good as I can, you have to have an awareness and a responsibility. This owner out in Portland, Oregon should be charged, sadly. Unless it's determined that, it was said that she knew the dogs were aggressive, and so she told the kid not to go into the dogs or with her into the garage with the dogs, but the kid did anyway. So you have to figure all of that out. But I think reckless manslaughter or whatever would be perfectly. Don, we'll get to you in just a moment. It's 12:31, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Back after this.
This report is
5:15:09.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 35 minutes after 12 o'clock. Glad to have you with us on this edition of the Matt Murphy Radio Show. It's our episode 470. We are less than a week from our 2-year anniversary, and they said it wouldn't last. 2 years in this chair, in this time slot on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And I appreciate each and every one of you for indulging me, each and every one of you for putting up with me, and we'll talk more about that next week. Don't forget our Christmas party coming up in Mount Juliet at Cedar Creek Marina. Be there at Scoreboards. We'll be there from 4 until 8, and maybe beyond. We'll be doing a live broadcast out there. A lot of fun will be had by all, I promise you. If you don't have fun, that's on you. We've got many surprises to come, and we'll tell you more about that as the show progresses. Right now, it's a great pleasure to introduce you, unless you know Chris. I am just meeting him, but I've heard wonderful things from mutual friends. He is putting his hat into the ring as a candidate for State Senate District 18. And toward that end, I think he's already announced this, but there's a big endorsement that's coming up a little bit later on the show, which I'm very excited about. And I'm excited to introduce our television viewing audience and our radio listening audience to Chris Spencer. Chris, good afternoon.
Well, good afternoon.
Hold on a second. Let me do that for me. I got you. I got him. Don't worry. I got his mic. I'm shaming Bell. Hey, Chris, good afternoon.
Well, thanks for having me, Matt. It's a pleasure. I listen to you every day.
Well, I'm glad you do. Tell us a little, before we get into the reasons behind running for political office. Tell folks that don't know you a little about yourself.
Well, I've been a Republican my whole life. I've only voted for Republicans. My first vote was for Ronald Reagan in 1984, and I've never strayed since. And I'm married for 33 years. My wife, Lisa, and we had 2 beautiful daughters, and we have 4 grandchildren now. So I'm a papa now, and I enjoy being a grandfather. And I've been in the college basketball business for about 33 years.
Is that what they call you, papa?
They call me papa.
Yeah. Did you lobby for anything else?
No, I didn't. It just
happened.
It was organic. Yeah.
So, I called my granddad Pawpaw. Mm-hmm. Very similar. And then eventually I shortened it. I felt weird about it when I became 10, and so I just shortened it to Pa. And that was him. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. So, 4 grandchildren.
Yes.
And you're into sports?
I am. So I played in college basketball, and then I went into business for myself, and I started basically a tournament business. And I put on tournaments all across the world, but mainly in the United States now. And I've been doing it for 33 years. In fact, we have Vanderbilt in our Dickies event next Saturday. So Vanderbilt will be in my event in Fort Worth, Texas. And last week and over Thanksgiving, we had Michigan State playing Arizona right after the Detroit Lions game, and it actually set a record for Fox for college basketball. We got a 5.2 rating on that game, so we made history.
And so it's an interesting time of year to be setting records, right? Yeah. I like basketball, but for me, basketball season begins in January. I know you hear this some. For me, it's like, once football season is kind of done, that's when basketball season starts. You probably don't like hearing that.
Well, I've been in it my whole life. Truth told, I don't watch it a whole lot anymore. I mean, dealing with coaches as I do, you just need to step back a little bit and enjoy the finer things in life, like my grandkids and so forth.
One of these days down the road, as we get to know one another, as your candidacy progresses, I want to talk to you about I bet you have stories.
I bet you have
stories, man.
Zillion stories. In fact, I actually am one of 3 people to defeat the NCAA in a federal lawsuit. So
you got to tell me that story now.
Oh,
what happened?
It's a long story.
Oh, okay.
It's a long story.
But you won?
We won in federal court. So basically what it was the NCAA in around 1998, they put in legislation to basically put us out of business. And I flew across the country trying to find an attorney that would take me on because I didn't have the money to fight, that bureaucracy.
Right.
And I found one finally, and we filed, and it was an antitrust case, and we filed in Columbus, and it took about 5 years. For 1 or 2 of the years, I was totally out of business. All I did was went to my attorney's office and went through a tractor trailer full of documents that they sent during discovery, hiding the documents that we were looking for. And that's what I did from 8 to 5 every single day. But we went 5-day trial in Columbus, and we actually won.
Good for you.
Bad thing was we lost on appeal in the Sixth Circuit. But the good thing is the NCAA after that, they changed their stance on the rule and allowed us to go back, and we flourished after that. And I started the events in Las Vegas. I've been there for 20 years, and I've been blessed with the business of college basketball.
I wouldn't begin to, if you gave me all the money in the world and all the time in the world and said, hey, run tournaments for I wouldn't even begin to understand it. But I'm glad that there's some people that do, like yourself.
It's a lot of work, that's for sure. It's a lot of work.
What in the world led you into the political arena?
Well, I'll do a short story. Basically, I was a founding member of the Sumner County Constitutional Republicans, and our goal was to find Christian men and women to run for office in Sumner County. And, so we, in that time, that 5 years, we've got 44 candidates that we vetted and we begged to run because, who wants to run for office? And we won 33 of those races. And at the end of the day, those
33 out of 44?
Yeah.
Pretty good track record.
It is. And at the end of the day, those wonderful people that we convinced to run and begged to run, they wanted me to run. And I looked at it for a while and I thought, I talked with my pastor and I said, I think I can serve God in the state Senate. And so at the end of the day, I just basically said, why not me? So,
well, I mean, you certainly can't sit across the table from someone and say, no, I know you don't want to do this, but you need to do this for your state. You need to do this for your community. You need to do this for your country. And then when they say that to you, you say no. You can't say no, right?
If you really want to make change, and right. I do, I love our Constitution. If you want to make change, you got to sometimes change the butts that are in the seats, And so I said, why not me? And if it's God's will, I'm going to win, and that's the way I feel about it. And if I don't win, then I'm going to go back to being a pawpaw, and I'll be happy either way.
Tell me a little bit about State Senate District 18.
Well, it's a very conservative county. We would call ourselves a red county, and we're just good Christian, folks that we live on the lake there. We enjoy our way of life there, and us Republicans that are constitutionally minded, we've been frustrated, over the last 10 years of who've been running our political process there in Sumner County and Trousdale. But we've made such inroads, that we have such great people there. And this is another, piece of that pie. This is a very important seat. I think I can make a difference. We have so many issues, in Sumner County with infrastructure. My goodness. I mean, I'm so blessed that I don't have to go downtown. But we have tens of thousands of people in Sumner and Trousdale County that have to drive to Nashville and then drive home, and they're sitting in hours of traffic. And
I lived, I not to interrupt your train of thought, but I mean, it's kind of going that direction. I lived in Goodlettsville for a year when I first got here. And man, oh man, thank you. Grand Old RV Resort, Convalescence Home and Bat Meat Market. I lived in a camper for a year at the Grand Old RV Resort, which is pretty cool. It was a great time before my wife got up here. That said, yeah, I mean, you get to Vietnam Veterans Parkway, you get to that area. I mean, it's brutal.
It is brutal. So there's got to be something that we can do, right? And so, I mean, my opponent's been there for 12 years. He's a nice man. But
Farrell Hale is who you're running against.
Yes. Yeah. A nice man. I've talked with him several times. But you know, I just think we need new energy and new leadership with new, fresh ideas. And I think that I'm the man for that job.
And the district encompasses all of Sumner, and you mentioned Trousdale?
Yes, all Trousdale.
And you just taught me right before we came on air that Trousdale is the smallest county in Tennessee?
I believe so. Yeah.
Geographically?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. Well, I mean, you know, there you go. And Sumner, that's Gallatin?
Gallatin, Hendersonville, Portland, White House.
A little portion of Goodlettsville, yeah.
Well, it depends on what the ruling is. Now they may have to go back to the old redistricting, and if it goes back to the old redistricting, I will get all of Goodlettsville, you know.
Okay.
Because we just don't know what's going to happen with that.
We need you over there.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah? Well.
Yeah. So, all right, tell you what we'll do. Just getting to know Chris Spencer, we've got a gentleman that I think you know on the line who I don't know if you know what's going to happen, but I think I do, that this individual wants to throw his name behind your candidacy in endorsing you, and I'm not going to get in front of that. So what we'll do, we'll take a short time out, and then I'll let you introduce our very special, unless you don't want to, introduce our special guest. Chris Spencer is with us. He's running for State Senate District 18. We'll be back in a moment on The Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1253. Good afternoon. Matt Murphy and you on episode 470. We've got Chris Spencer in studio. Chris is running for State Senate District 18. And I know it's a little early to talk 2024 politics, but frankly, I just wanted to get to know Chris. I've heard great things about him with our conversations with the Sumner County Constitutional Republicans, and wanted to get him in studio to talk with him. And this is coinciding with a very special guest that we have on the hotline, the Murphy Show hotline, who wants to speak to Chris's candidacy in State Senate District number 18. It's a name, Chris. Do you know who's on the line?
I do.
Hold on a second. One more time. Thank you, Bill. It's an ongoing joke. You do.
I do.
And without further ado, let's welcome to the show the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. It's John Rich, everybody. Woo! John, what is going on, brother?
Well, good afternoon, gentlemen. Good to join you.
Yes, sir. How's things going with you?
And things are going great. It's a great end to the year. Looking forward to slowing down a little bit with the family and thinking about next year, just like you guys are. And I know that's our discussion today.
Well, John, you know, I was talking with Chris off air, and I have a little preview into what you're going to say, and I'm not getting in front of the parade here, but I love how involved you are, and I love that you don't just talk the talk when it comes to your political beliefs and when it comes to people that you point to and say, this is a guy or a gal that I can get behind and believe in. You do your research, you do your homework, and when John Rich speaks, Tennessee listens, and that is a testimony to how invested you are in the future of our people of Tennessee and the people of America. So congratulations to you.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. You know, it's not the easiest route, especially if you're an entertainer, to step out and take a stand on anything. So plenty of people don't like what I have to say, but that's fine with me. I think that the stakes are so high right now in Tennessee, right now in the United States, that gamesmanship is over, officially over. And I think one thing that we have all learned as conservatives is that just because you call yourself a Republican does not mean we can count on you to do the right thing. You know, we have an acronym for them, Rhino. I have another name I call them, Judas Republicans. That's a stronger way to put it. You know, where they talk the talk, they act like us, they dress like us, they say they care about the things we care about, but then they get behind closed doors and they allow all this chaos and things to ensue that we never signed off on. And so as I'm looking at this race, Chris Spencer and Farrell Hale, I got to know Farrell Hale, got to know about him back when I gave a speech to the Tennessee House Representatives Subcommittee about the pornography that was in all the schools throughout the state of Tennessee, which now all the parents are aware of this. And I went in front of that committee and I had 5 minutes and I made a speech and I made points like, hey, if you read this book on the radio, the FCC would kick you off the radio. If you showed these images on a television station, the FCC would kick you off the air. Well, that spawned a bill, 1944, that came forward in April of 22. And I thought it was a slam dunk. I mean, how do you not vote for a bill that takes pornography out of an elementary school, especially when you have a supermajority of Republicans in the House and Senate? So it's not even a question. Of course, it's going to get handled. Well, guess what? It didn't get handled. Nothing changed. The same problem still exists in Tennessee. And guess where Farrell Hale decided to fall on that argument, on that vote? Well, he didn't. He didn't vote no, and he didn't vote yes. So he played a game there. He played games with something that is deadly serious to all the rest of us. When it came time for masking our kids, giving schools permission for minors to take the vaccine without their parents' consent, all these things came through Farrell Hale and a bunch of other guys that are up there representing us. And I said, you know what? You cannot count on this situation. Mm-hmm. So when Chris Spencer came along, I said, well, I want to see what this guy's all about. Invited him up to the House, asked him a lot of tough questions. And you could just tell that, number one, what I liked about him is he absolutely hates politics. That is the precursor.
Yeah, it's a bonus.
If you love politics, there might be something wrong with you. That's kind of how I look at it. And he hates politics. He hates the thought of being a politician. It just disgusts him to no end. But like he said, somebody's got to step up and try to right this ship. We've got to have people in office that we can count on to do the things that we would do if we were in the room when it was being discussed, and I firmly believe he's the guy to do that.
And so what we're hearing, I believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, John, is that you are endorsing Chris Spencer.
He has my 100% endorsement and support, and I will be raising money for him, and I will be showing up at events for him. And we're going to make a statement. Listen, people are sick and tired. It's one thing to be betrayed by Democrats, okay? We don't agree with them anyway. We don't expect them to agree with us. But when a Republican doesn't vote on a bill that takes pornography out of Tennessee schools, ask him why he didn't vote on that. Go ask him. And let me ask Chris a question. Chris, I know you're there. Chris, if you win this seat and a bill is presented to you while you're in that seat that takes pornography out of Tennessee schools, will you vote in support of that bill?
Oh, 100%. It would not be in school if I have that, able to make that vote. I mean,
good for you.
Of course. See, that's the answer.
It's not hard, is it, John?
Farrell Hale didn't vote yes or no. Go look it up.
Well, and for me, I don't know Hale, and I'll give him full opportunity to be on my radio show, John, but I'll say this. For me, over the 25 years that I've been doing this, a politician that is available to vote and doesn't cast a vote and is an automatic disqualifier to me. There's a reason we put you into office, to make decisions. Make a decision. If you don't vote, then you're out. For me.
Bingo. There's no more playtime, guys. I mean, I promise you, everybody listening to this radio show right now is going, absolutely, it's not playtime. The gamesmanship is over. Listen, I don't care if you're Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, Mitt Romney. I don't care how big you are or how localized you are. If you are playing games with the future of us, then you got to go. We need people in there that are going to do what we would do if we were in the room and had the authority to do it. And Chris Spencer has promised me, guaranteed me that when he gets in that room, he is going to vote like we would vote if we were casting it ourselves. And yes, he has my 100% support.
Love it. John Rich, thank you so much. We'll continue this conversation, if not before the holidays, then certainly over the course of 2024. Chris says I get to act as security at an event that's coming up in February. I plan on doing that. And we love you, man. We thank you for everything that you do for this state, and I know that Chris appreciates that endorsement.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, John. It's such an honor, and I won't let you down, 100%.
Well, we're behind you. Go get them, and Merry Christmas, everybody. God bless you.
Merry Christmas, John, and God bless you. There's John Rich. How about that, Chris?
Wow.
How about that?
I'm almost in tears.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is a guy that asks questions, that wants direct answers. You give him direct answers, and he's going to move on it. And he puts his money and his name where his mouth is, and with the people that he supports. So congratulations. It's a great way to get to know you. We're sadly out of time, but we'll have you back, and we'll do this again. And 2024 should be a heck of a good year for the state of Tennessee.
Thank you so much for your time.
How can people find out more about you real quick?
ChrisSpencerforSenate.com.
It's just that, and spell Spencer with an S on the front end and a C on the back end, right?
Yes.
And there you go. Yep. Chris Spencer, great conversation.